So having a sense of that sort of, you know, I'm not experienced, but I just got the feeling you need a champion working
Mm.
inside. And Randy Phillips at the time was managing Rod Stewart. He had he's a turnaround artist. Rod Stewart was huge in the 80s. Those of us who were old enough when he was a rock star as a young
Yeah,
guy.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
And then in his late 40s, early 50s, he like flipped his old image around and came back as like a Sinatra type
Yeah, 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 yeah. I remember that
figure, right?
album. Yeah.
And Randy had orchestrated, Randy and Arnold Stiefel as partners had orchestrated this entire sort of comeback of Rod Stewart. So his juice was high. Their juice was so high. And at the time, they're launching a record label because they're smart and recognize that as managers, we are inherently babysitters and we are at behest to the artist, but ownership of the copyright is where the money is and where the power is.
Mm.
So they launched the label, and they had a mild hip hop hit, kind of came and went, but there are two things that they were banking on. One, on the indie R&B and indie. On the R&B pop side, they had us, and on the indie side, they had Sublime. And those were going to be the two things that they launched. And Randy and Arnold were determined to get their label off. And their label wasn't just the sort of production deal that
Mm.
it wasn't a vanity deal. It was a full joint venture where they were funding their side. So they had, and Randy was very, very tight with the CEO, Al Teller, at the time,
Mm.
who at the time is like the most powerful guy in music.
Yeah.
He introduced me to Al and gave me relationships inside. And he was tutoring me on how it worked. And he informed me, you need a champion working this. Sure, it probably worked in his self-interest, which is not a secret,
Yeah.
but at the same time, he was absolutely right. So to answer, that was a very long,
No, no, no. Take
long-winded
that's
winded
good.
answer, a way to answer your question, which was that guy gave us a pit bull inside the large universal system that we would need. And it was key because once that's why, if you notice, a lot of the records from our era are, they're big R&B records. Not many of them had that long sustained pop success. Boys to Men and Us probably had that sort of, you know, sustained crossover thing.
Mm.
And a large part of that was because Randy working every side of Universal, saying like, yeah, this is an R&B record, but yeah, this is a pop record. This is a global record. Activate your European, Asian, get them involved. We have something that can go that way.
Yeah.
So having someone on our team who was hot because he had just had great track record with Rod Stewart at that time, so he had just like all kinds of respect in the building because he was largely given credit for that turnaround of a superstar
Yeah.
back to superstardom. Rod was a partner in the label also. They wanted to make him happy. So the short answer is that signing with Gasoline Alley gave us leverage points. It
Mm.
gave us it gave us the personal attention of a small organization with the power and influence of a big organization and two key players to guide the ship.
Yeah, and because I can't even count how many people I've interviewed, but I've interviewed a lot of the MCA Uptown
Yes.
artists, even Jimmy Jenkins, and
Yeah.
then
Yeah.
artists like Jack McGee, who was on MCA, and they would tell you
Yeah.
that MC had Boys to Men, sorry, not Boys to Men, New Edition, but Bobby Brown, Boys BBD, Ralph Tresvant. They had all of the MCA, the Uptown stuff. They had Jody Watley, so they had so
Crush it.
much, and so they couldn't.
Dominate.
So in a way, it meant that
We're
it's easy to
dominate.
get lost. But as you've described, it's like those artists who were signed to, say, the boutique labels like Bad Boy or LaFace and stuff got Clive's ear because he
That's right.
trusted what they were doing, and so they were able to get that sense. But that being said, though, how did you read up on the business side of things? So understanding your publishing, understanding what kind of contractor and things like that before you agreed to go down with Gas and Alley.
I did. I
Wow.
understood how it worked. I wanted, again, my dream was to have a label
So
and
okay, wow.
do this stuff independently. I wanted to, I'd kind of grown up on the hip hop labels and watching Dr. Dre's movement. I was a big Dr. Dre guy as a kid. Um, and they were always indie, man. I remember they were on a label called Macola Records that I remember being when I was a kid and we came out to California on family vacations, I would have my brother drive me to where their offices were so I could kind of, and then like looking back on it, it was like they were just like boot, like, mom and pops type operations, but to me they were legendary because their names were on these records. And
Mm,
so I'd had, delusions of grandeur of sort of doing that. But then once, if I ever sort of took hold, um, it was clear that it was bigger. It was going to be bigger, or had the potential to be bigger than I ever thought.
mm.
And so we wound up signing with a label, of course. Um, and I didn't keep us from getting into a bad deal because we
Oh,
still had a bad deal. And
wow.
eventually had to negotiate. Uh, Now I did understand music publishing, so I I did own I've always owned If I Ever Fall in Love, and own the publishing. We did a co-publishing agreement at the time, which was sort of standard.
Mm,
And what happens for young artists is that you these are liquidity events, right? This is most normally the first time an artist is getting any sort of money,
yeah.
and liquid money. So if there's an opportunity to get a few $100,000 or $1 million in your pocket, liquid,
Yeah.
most of the time people will go for it. Yeah, they want the prestige of a label and being signed to a major label. So if people say, "Oh, it's a lifelong dream," what's really the lifelong dream is having some zeros, numbers that don't start with zero in your bank account. And but what happens is, especially during that time, it's a lot different now, this environment. But what it has you do is it has you over leverage your intellectual property, your music publishing. You know, yeah, that's the value in the music business, is in owning the publishing rights and owning the copyright and the live and the live performance. Those are the three pillars of music revenue, merchandising as well. But those are the big ones in terms of just the mechanics of the business. And yeah, during the 90s specifically, there weren't many opportunities to come in with that kind of leverage to where you say, 50-50, just give me a distribution deal. I got
Yeah.
my own social team. I can get to my audience. Puff was
The
doing a semblance of that. He was doing what you'd probably call a more primitive version of that in the street team era,
mm,
where you'd set up interns or a group in each region and then sort of have them set up your releases so that you weren't dependent on the label, because the truth was they weren't putting the resources into developing that for our music. So
yeah.
yeah, it was he was smart enough to see that and fill that void.
Hey guys, thanks for watching. Thanks for being a part of Halftime Chat. Please remember to subscribe, share, and comment. But most importantly, why don't you become a member of Halftime Chat? We've got amazing videos, amazing perks, and being able to support the channel. But anyway, thanks for watching. Take care.
I never participated in that category.
And somewhere in between
us for even loving us, on which I didn't miss you with.
What was it like growing up?
She's still making an impact on 4 houses down.
I have a pieces.
trying to get this one and that one.
That works for you, but just for me,
No. Okay, you okay?
They don't understand what Jonas' voice meant at all.
Play it.
And all these guys, they all work together.
I mean, I love all different genres.